Good evening and welcome to our English version of Chapter Chat. As usual, we are live from Nemi, and this evening I am joined by Brother Harley Maps. Harley Mapes or Mapes? Mapes in Spanish.
Mapes.
Harley Mapes. Harley is from Canada. As you know, he's a capitular. He has participated in the chapter, and he will share with us today his experience about all that. Greetings, Harley, and welcome to Chapter Chat.
Well, thank you, Bonga. I'm very happy, very honored to be here speaking with you.
Great. And before I ask you to introduce yourself, we are very delighted as well. From Canada, we go all the way down to South Africa, where we find Brother John Mhlanga. And he's in Sidara in South Africa, and he's joining us from there. Greetings, John, and welcome to Chapter Chat.
Hi, Bonga. Thank you very much. Delighted to be joining you at this very unholy hour.
Thank you for making time.
I'm happy to. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for making time, and thank you for your sacrifice. Harley, please introduce yourself briefly. Who is Brother Harley?
Oh, well, gosh. Well, I've been an Oblate brother since 1979. I joined straight out of high school, and most of my life has been either as a teacher in schools or a school administrator, either in Northern Canada, also spent a year teaching in Australia and Thailand, and then I was several years in Kenya. Now for the past 5 years, I've been treasurer, bursar for Oh My Lacombe Canada. Mm-hmm. So that kind of describes the work that I've done. What I really enjoy is teaching English and working with young people.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Harley. Thank you for being with us here. Just make sure you underline all our faults and mistakes in our English here, so that you can correct it afterwards. Nhlanhla, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Nhlanhla is my name, John. Commonly called Brother John because people can't say Nhlanhla without biting their tongue. Naturally from Zimbabwe. Unlike Harley, I'm only very, very young, and only in 2004 did I join the Oblate. And then I've been with the Oblate since then, making my final vows after philosophy and theology in 2012 rather. I've specialized in moral theology. And so since 2016, I've been lecturing at the Scholasticate, the Theological Institute in Sidara. My focus being moral theology and some modules in human and social development. For my sins, I also am the financial administrator, so I play the role of the money man, like the Judas. I try not to sell anyone for 30 pieces of silver. Maybe for 30 million, I might. So yeah, basically, a brother in education, higher education, and administration. So I think, like Harley, there's a lot of synergy there in the work that we both do. Yeah.
That's why we got you together this evening, to find out who spends more money, brothers or priests. So now to our viewers, welcome as well, and thank you for joining us. As you can see, we have two brothers. We are going to explore the vocation to brotherhood. What is an Oblate brother? What do they do exactly? Why are they brothers and not priests? What does that mean? What is the difference between those two? So that will be a very exciting discussion we are going to have this evening. So thank you very much for being with us, Harley and John. Harley, you were in the chapter hall the whole day. Just briefly tell us what happened. What did you do today? What did the chapter? It's the last week, and I'm sure you guys should be tired by now. What happened in the hall today?
Well, during the morning session, we voted on various changes to the constitutions and rules. And after that, there were different groups that have been bringing proposals to the chapter for their consideration. So each region, for example, presented proposals for the chapter to include in the document or as mandates for the next this next general administration. I was, on behalf of the brothers, I presented a proposal from the brothers for the consideration of the capitulars, and we're hoping that it will become recommendations, mandates from the chapter. And so after that, in the afternoon, we went on to look at a draft copy of the message that the delegates are proposing to send out to the congregation.
Good. Thank you very much. And of course, we're looking forward to that message, because that's a very important moment when the chapter delegates, they share with the whole family what has been happening and what message of hope they would like to address to the whole family. And they work hard on that, correcting it and putting it nicely, making it poetic and all that. So we're looking forward to receiving the message in the next few days, hopefully. Now let's get into our discussion tonight. You know, we read in Article 1 of our Constitution and Rules that the congregation of the Oblates of Mary Immaculate is clerical, of pontifical right. It groups into apostolic communities of priests and brothers who bind themselves to God by the vows of religion. In one of his articles, Oblate Identity, one of his articles, Father Jete writes about Oblate Identity, and he says, the congregation is incomplete without brothers. Now, what is the place of an Oblate brother in the congregation of the Oblates of Mary Immaculate? I'll ask that to you, Brother John. Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, so it's one of those beautiful pieces of work that you hear being repeated over and over again when we speak about Oblate brothers, that the congregation is incomplete without the brothers. I think there is a truth to that, but the truth should be actually a humbling truth, not to say the brotherhood needs to be exonerated and placed up there. The reason I say that is when you begin to understand what a brother is or is meant to be, then you will come to recognize that it is a vocation to live religious life as is, with no frills, no extras, no anything. It is just the raw vocation to oblate life, which I hope and believe we all are called to, whether I'm a brother or I'm a priest, whether someone is in the early stages of formation or they are late in their lives. If you have received the call to an oblate life, that call, that commitment to God in the vows in this congregation should be in principle of the same essence. The differences of ministries that we take up comes as an extra. So that then brings me to say the congregation is incomplete, not without the brothers, is incomplete without members, oblates, who are called and committed to the oblate life. You see, so for me, that's the value of it, because being a brother is saying publicly and is committing yourself to the community and to God in saying, all I want to do or to be is a man committed to this life. And that's the all and the end all, and anything else is extra. And so the congregation is incomplete if we don't have men in whatever form of ministry that they choose to serve the church as. If we don't have men that say, I want to be committed, and that's all, then the congregation is incomplete. In effect, the congregation does not exist. And so I think the wisdom of Jete brings us to this. It's a call to say we are incomplete if we are not wholly and meaningfully committed to religious life in the first instance. And I think brotherhood is precisely that. It is saying, I am not looking for extras. They may come, but just being committed and just being oblate is enough. You see, so and that's the beauty of it. But it should humbling in a sense. So I always approach it from a point of beginning with a lot of humility in that sense.
Good, great. Brother Harley, just to take on from what Brother John is saying, why did you choose to be an Oblate brother, and how did you come to the conclusion that you were called to be an Oblate brother rather than an Oblate priest?
Well, it's an interesting question insofar as going back to my novice master, who emphasized with us that vocation is a calling from God. So I don't choose what calling God gives me. It's up to me to search out what is the will of God. And then my choice isn't what is my vocation. My choice is, am I going to respond to this, to the call that God gives, the invitation God gives? So that's the real choice. So for me, it wasn't, do I choose to be a priest or do I choose to be a brother? Rather, for me, the choice was, am I going to accept the invitation that I feel God is extending to me? But now, of course, all right, how do I come to some understanding of that? Well, what attracted me to religious life was I wanted to do something with my life more than live it for myself. So I wanted to be of service to others. I was attracted by life in community, and I was attracted by a life of prayer. So those were the things that were drawing me. It wasn't that I was attracted to having the opportunity to preside at Eucharist or celebrate Sacrament of Reconciliation, like kind of those things which are reserved to the ministerial priesthood. I say it was the other three: community, prayer, and service to others. And so I responded to the invitation that I understood God was extending to me. And I have to say, that's been confirmed in my life along the way. People, I have felt that I'm on the path that God has wanted. He's given me peace and fulfillment through my answer to his invitation, and others have responded to me in such a way that I say, yeah, I am on the right path. This is what God was asking of me.
Great. That's beautiful. Now just a very simple question for our viewers at home. What is the difference between an Obit brother and an Obit priest? Ntantla, would you like to take that? What, just simply in 2 words, what differentiates these two? We're both Oblates, but they're priests and they're brothers.
Before I get to the difference, do you mind me saying that fundamentally we should be the same? I think that's what I want to hammer in. We should be the same as Oblate men committed to the Oblate life and the Oblate charism. The difference comes in the expression of that vocation, and this is the services that we offer. And the priest will offer the ministerial, clerical priest service of, as we understand it in the church, the sacraments and all of that. And the brother, we have to discern where your qualities, your talents, your interests, and the priorities of the community are, right? So whereas you would, you're on your identity, you take on the service of the sacraments. For me, the priority in the community and with my talents was education in the seminary, you see. So whereas we are the same, what we get to do in how we serve the church, in how we give expression to our vocations, that's where the difference comes in. The difference is in expression, not in identity.
Not in identity. At the core of it all, we Oblates, we brothers, we all brothers, and then good. That's beautiful. But in general, the vocation of an Oblate brother is not well known. Which is easily hidden by the vocation to the priesthood or overshadowed. We always just see priests, and the brothers are not known. Tell us about your ministry in general. What do the brothers do? What do brothers do? Because we know priests hear confessions and they say mass, and the brothers, what do they do?
Do you want me to continue with that?
Yeah, I'll ask that Harley, if you can take that one, Harley.
Okay, yeah.
Gosh, the ministry. Well, when I joined the Oblates many years ago, brothers were largely consigned to internal ministries, cooks, cleaners, or perhaps they worked on the farms and the printing operations we had. But as time has gone by and there's been a fuller understanding of the meaning of brother and his commitment, really ministries are wide open. So I happened to end up becoming a teacher, and that isn't even something I asked for, but rather the provincial came to me and said, "We need teachers. We would like you to become a teacher." I wasn't enthusiastic about it, but it turned out that I was a natural teacher who connected with high school students, and so it turned into what for me was just a very wonderful, fulfilling ministry, and a ministry that made a difference in people's lives. Now, ministry. The story I always like to tell is of Nancy, one of my students, who said to me, "Brother, you should go and study and become a priest, and then you could come back and be our priest." And I smiled and I said, "Why, Nancy, if I did that, I would hardly ever see you." Took her a moment to realize, and then she started laughing, that she was in school every day, so I saw her every day, but she didn't come to church very often. So if I was the priest, I would hardly have ever seen her. So part of the ministry of a brother is to be in those places amongst those people whom the church doesn't touch, who, for whatever reason, feel alienated from the church. And in my role as a brother, I can be very often the face of the church, kind of the hands, the voice, the ears of God in a way that the priest can't, because for whatever reason, people feel a distance between themselves and the ordained, whereas they don't feel that distance with me.
Good.
So,
Great.
yeah, ministry is whatever God is calling us to in order to serve the poor.
Yeah, awesome. That's nice to hear. So brothers can do all sorts of things. They can be teachers, they can be financial administrators, as you are, you can be treasurers in your provinces. It's beautiful. It's not reduced to just being celebrating sacraments. Like, good. But
And it's not the job, it's not the work, it's our life that counts. Our commitment to community life, prayer, and service.
Great. Brother John, tell us about your Oblate identity as an Oblate brother. How do you live your Oblate identity? How does it manifest itself, or in your daily life?
So it's a very difficult question to answer, because it's like, but I always like to link my Oblate life to the man whose cross I carry. I carry one of those small crosses that Oblates back in the days used to receive, Brother Philip. And I like to recount his story, because for Brother Philip, from the time that he took final vows or first vows, he was blind. So he was blind for over 50 years of his life. And he worked in the Valley of 1,000 Hills, which was, for a blind man, an almost impossible place to be in. But he knew the terrain in his blindness. He knew where to go, where not to go. The people knew him. The people came to him. They sought him for advice. When the kids, there was a famous story that when kids were about to write their exams, they'll go to him and ask, "Brother Philip, will I pass my exams?" And they'll often ask, "Have you been studying?" And if they say yes, they say, "Then you will pass your exams." And so they always felt that he had a gift of visions, like, but it was easy science. Did you prepare or did you not prepare? But in his blindness, I think he had such immense light in his life that people recognized it. So he is in our everyday world a blind man. You don't notice the blind people until they carry a stick. Then it actually comes to your mind, actually, there's a blind person in society. But in that blindness, in that hidden ministry, he had such great impact on the people that he lived with. So for me, my Oblate identity is always there, in the sense that it's an identity that is easy to forget, and I'm happy about that. People think of it as a tragedy that brothers are almost forgotten. I'm actually happy about it, because then we manifest in spaces where no one else is there. So when Brother Harley says, I'm there with the kids every day, it's almost, you could overlook that I'm there every day. So the identity is in the hidden nature of our lives, in the nature of life that you could, linking to the story of Philip, is in a sense blindness of darkness. There is an immensity of light that the identity throws on into the world that we live in. So my identity and my way of living my Oblate life is always life, and you know me because we've stayed together. It's almost like a life in the background that is not up there, but is in everywhere, is in everything, and it's recognized and understood. And I think that is, if I may be biblical for once, it's like the leaven, right? You hardly ever see it on the bread, but it's there. And the bread is not what it could be without it. And I think it's that, the identity of having an impact, effecting change, bringing people closer to God, to who they are, to the best of who they could ever be, but without being assuming, right? Without being presumptuous, without taking center stage, always, in a sense, forgotten, but always impactful.
And
So that's,
present.
in a
Good.
simple way, how I look at my life and my identity as an Oblate brother.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Brother Hadi, you've been in this chapter now for the past 3 weeks. You're on your last week. I'd like to know, how is your chapter experience been? But I'll put that together as well. I know that during this chapter, as brothers, you prepared a retreat, a report that you presented to the chapter. It would be nice to hear just a few aspects, without telling us all the secrets and the stuff we shouldn't hear, about what you presented, the report you presented to the chapter, and how it was received, and stuff like that. How has this chapter been for you as an experience?
In a word, wonderful. I was at a chapter 30 years ago as a brother delegate, and it was a very different experience from this. We were at the Christian Brothers place in Rome, and just the fact that we were in Rome meant that whenever there was a lengthy break, everyone dispersed off to see the sights in Rome. Here in Nemi, we are isolated in some ways. I mean, it's a 10-minute walk down a very steep hill into the little town of Nemi, but the location is quiet, it's rural, it's beautiful, and it encourages the capitulars to really stay on site and mingle with one another. So it's been just a great experience, and for me, certainly one of the highlights has been being with the other brother delegates from around the congregation. We are our own Tower of Babel, however. There are 5 brother delegates, and when we meet, we need to have 3 translators with us. 2 of us speak English, 1 speaks French, 1 speaks Spanish, and 1 speaks Polish. So yeah, it's interesting. Our meetings are like trying to get a centipede to move, trying to get all the different legs coordinated so we can move forward. But it's been great. I've really enjoyed it, and discussing these topics that are absolutely central to our identity as Oblates. So now, in the report the presentation that the brothers gave to the chapter, and then that's now followed up with our proposals for the capitulars to vote on. One of the key items that we have raised is the use of language, and how we are Oblates of Mary Immaculate. And we made a very strong plea, a strong statement to the chapter of, let us identify ourselves as Oblates of Mary Immaculate and consigned to the dustbin of history, Oblate Fathers. And so the brothers have said, look, let's get rid of this Oblate Fathers from our schools, our institutions, our letterhead, and identify who we really are. We're a community of priests and brothers, the Oblates of Mary Immaculate. So that was one of them. We have asked that the congregation take some steps forward to increase the representation of brothers in leadership, and that has all sorts of subtext to it, such as, well, as I said, we get together and we can't speak to one another because, by and large, brothers haven't had an international formation, and so they don't learn languages. So we're pushing, suggesting that brothers, for example, be encouraged to go to the International Scholasticate. Brothers be sent on mission experiences to other units, learn other languages. So that's something else. And then, of course, following up on Pope Francis's change to leadership in religious congregations, all of a sudden, the role of major superiors, including that of Superior General, is now open to brothers within the missionary oblates. Of course, no brother in his right mind would want to take on the role of Superior General. I'm part of leadership.
I know one who can.
Yeah, I'm part of leadership just in our province, and I see the things that come across the desk. I can only imagine what the Superior General has to deal with. Yeah. But in all these things that we've proposed, I have to say, part of what's made the experience so wonderful is that the capitulars have been very open, very welcoming, very accepting of the brothers at the chapter, and I say just very, very open to the things that we have been proposing.
Great.
It's an incredible change from experience of 30 years ago.
Awesome. God be praised. Thank you very much. I have just one more question, and we have about 3 minutes to conclude. I'll address this one to you, Brother John. How do you think our congregation can further promote this beautiful vocation to brotherhood? Do you have anything to say to young people who are watching us and who are searching maybe for meaning in their lives? How would you encourage them to become Oblate brothers?
I think the encouragement to become Oblate brothers does not start with what we say out to the young people. I'll come to that, but it also begins with how we live internally and how we prioritize the Oblate vocation. And I think when we do vocations promotion, it should not be the narrative of the dual expressions of the brotherhood or the priesthood. It should be, are you interested in the Oblate vocation? And I think that's where discernment needs to begin. And so when we go out to the young people, it has to be about that. Do you want to be an Oblate? Do you feel called to be an Oblate? Yes. And then the expressions, the ministries that we take up become added extras. Of course, you do get people who are clear that they feel called to the priestly life and they want expressions of the priestly life as Oblates. That's a different case. But our offering should be an offering of the Oblate identity first. But it's not enough to simply offer that to them. We have to be convinced within ourselves as Oblates of that. And that for me would mean a conscious living of our identity as Oblates, not our identity as Oblate fathers, like what Harley was saying, the conscious shift. To the extent that, to use you as an example, you identify yourself as a priest before an Oblate, to that extent, the vocation of the brotherhood will always be subservient to the vocation of the priest. It should be clear that we all identify ourselves as Oblate, and that's what will be attractive. And when we take that out in vocations promotions, then there is authenticity in our message. You see, right now, the fear is to go to young people and say, do you want to be an Oblate brother? And then they come and join us, and all they hear is Oblate father, Oblate father, Oblate father. Then they say, I sold a dream. don't want to be in this. So it has to start with a cleaning of the house inside, authenticity, change of our mindset, change of how we identify ourselves, and take the message out there. Is the Oblate identity, the Oblate vocation. I'm out of time and I realize I have to shut up now.
Good, that's powerful. That's powerful. Just to conclude, brother Harley, a few days ago, you had a beautiful encounter with the Superior General, and at the end of that meeting with him, our new Superior General, Father Chicho, at the end of that meeting, he asked you to bless him. Tell us about that briefly. How was that?
It was shocking, and it was extremely moving. The brothers had already arranged a meeting amongst ourselves to discuss our proposals for the chapter. And as we were sitting there just waiting for one of the translators to arrive, Superior General walked by, saw we were there, and came in and sat down. So I thought, well, this is nice. Thought that he would be there for a moment, say hello, and then be gone. But he stayed for the rest of the meeting. And then at the end, as you see on your screen, he knelt down and he said, now I'm going to ask you to give me your blessing. Well, it caught all of us off guard, and all of us were just deeply touched by the humility, the authenticity of this gesture. I don't know if there's anything he could have said that would have touched us as much as this gesture. And I really hope that this picture is widely circulated throughout the congregation, just to show this is the man we have, that God has chosen to lead our congregation. He's a man of humility, a man of community, and I believe a real man of the congregation. So I say it was a very moving experience for me, one that I won't forget.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, I can assure you the photo has gone viral. We shared it immediately, and it went very, very fast. So we thank God for that beautiful, beautiful gesture and that experience. Brothers, I think Shani will kill me if we can take another minute. We'll have to stop. Lovely talking to you. Thank you very much for your insights. But above all, thank you very much for who you are as Oblates of Mary Immaculate, and the way you live your vocation and witness to the beauty of our charism. May God bless you. And that's it for today. Thank you to our viewers. You can see all your messages that you have written. The chapter is slowly coming to an end, but we'll keep you posted about what's happening. So thank you very much. God bless you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Bonga. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.